Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Nun Zalid in Bava Kamas. We learned Frachenoko basis on a similar Shivya. Let's just quickly review what we learned yesterday because it'll apply to today also. That certain different items, an Adam is chayav on many things, but he doesn't have to pay if he killed somebody. So, for example, we learned yesterday that if an Adam, a person, and the shore pushed somebody into a bore, so all three things are chayiv and damages. The bore is chayiv, the shore is chayiv, and the Adam is chayiv. However, it depends what. If it's for damages, they all split it. If it's for kofar and shloshim shalevet, only a shore pays that. A man doesn't pay that because if he kills somebody, he's chayiv misa himself, even though he's not actually killed. Let's say if there's no edim and asra, etc. Still, he's pater because of kamem rabminei. And then we said that a bore is pater for kalim, shorvlo and chamar v'lo kalim. If kalim, vessels, accessories, clothing, anything fell into a bore and got broken, damaged, destroyed, a bore is pater on that. And shor psul mikdashan, let's say a shore that was puzzle, it was a hekdesh shore that got puzzled because it got a mum, and then it was redeemed. So even though a person is chayiv to pay for that because it's shore re'euksiv, and a shore is chayiv to pay for that damage, but a bore is pater. And we came out why? Because it says kesef yashlu v'bolav. It's got to be somebody who has an owner, and the owner, there is no owner over here. It says also meisi alo misha meishalo yaszesh and meishalo. So we came out that if it's not his or kesef yashlu v'bolav, because by bor talks about an owner, and here there is no owner. Even if you call this an owner, as you said before, by a shore that's so mikdashim that is not redeemed like a bechor. So there, it's kasev yashel balav, and there's no balam over here. You can't really own it. Rashi, we had that more, let's say, on yesterday's daf on Amar Aleph, talked about the pasuk of was that yesterday's? Yeah, it was yesterday's daf kasev yashel balav. It's got to be an owner, and over here, no, it was actually on Amid Beis here that we came out, right? That we had a question. There's two Amesi Alo. One is for Balam Matapim and Avela, and one is for Kesef Yashul Balav. It's got to be an owner, somebody that has an owner, as opposed to this, which doesn't really have an owner because you can't do with it whatever you want. You can't sell it, etc. So therefore, a bor is pater shorpsul mikdashin, even though it was redeemed, for money, and you bought another animal with it, you bought another carbon with it. But still, since you can't do with it what you want, you're putter in that case. Then at the end of the daf, we'll pick it up again from the two dots on the bottom of Nun Gimel and Balas, the 5 months from down a page. So he said, the Mishnah said this is the simplest part of the Mishnah. If a shore fell in, you pay for the shore. You don't pay for the kalim, the accessories on the back of the shore that broke, and chamor, and you don't pay for because that's shore chamor below kalim. And shore of lodom, that if a person dies, if the person fell into a pit and dies, you don't pay for that either. Don't pay for the person. Bor is not chayiv because it says shore below adam. Now masnisin the low Rabbi Yehuda. A mission doesn't come out like Rabbi Yehuda. The time Rabbi Yehuda machayiv on this kelim bor. It doesn't learn chamor below kalim. He says kalim are chayiv bor. Bor is chayiv on shore, chamor, animals, etc. Is also chayiv on accessories, clothing, etc. So Rabbi Yehuda machayiv on this kelim bor. My time Rabbi, what's the reason of the Rabbanan? Again, the pasuk says ki yiftach ish bor o ki yichrish bor lo yichasenu v'nafal shama shor o chamor bal bor yishalem kesef yashuv l'balav. Okay, so it says, so again, the Rabbanan say shor v'lo adam chamor v'lo kalim. Rabbi Yehuda o l'Rava says the kelim says shor o chamor. O includes kalim. Rabbanan omi boy l'chalik. Rabbanan say you need l'chalik to separate between shor and chamor. I might think it says if it only say that if you open up a bore and you dig a bore and a shore and a chamor fell in, you think you're only chayiv if both a shore and a chamor fell in there. Kamashman, no, it's one or the other. You don't need both. As we'll see, other animals too. Rabbi Yehuda l'chalik. Rabbi Yehuda l'chalik mi v'nafal nafti. He says, I don't need that. teaches me kalim. You're chayiv on kalim too. It teaches me l'chalik. I don't need. How do I know that you don't have to have both things, shore and a chamor falling in there in order to be chayiv? Because benafal, nafal is singular. Rabbanan v'nafal too b'mash. Benafal could also mean, even though it's actually grammatically it's singular, but you find many psukim in the Torah and Tanakh where it says the lashon of a singular bahari or bahos from Mesika. It can be many as well. Ema. Now we're at the third line of Nendal before we left off yesterday. Ema v'nafal klal. Why don't you say it says v'nafal shava shor chamor? V'nafal is a general thing. Anything that falls in klal. Shor chamor is a prat. These individual things. Klal v'nafal klal shor chamor prat. Klal prat. Ema chal mashav prat. That's the fourth of the 13 Yigim Midos that we say every day in davening. Before Mizmor Shechan Gaspa is the end that we say the Yigim Midos. The fourth one is klal prat. Ema chal. The rule is. These are klalim that the Torah are darshan with. Only it, maybe shor v'chamor, maybe only a shor v'chamor. You only chayiv if a shor or a chamor fell into your pit. Otherwise, not. Amri no. Bala boy yishalem chazav klal. We have another klal. It's klal uprato klal, which is the sixth of the Yud Gimel Midos. Right? We have klal uprat, then prato klal is the fifth one. The sixth one is klal uprat uklal. So now we have klal prat. What's the rule of klal prat klal? Not ein b'klal mashma prat, which is the case of klal prat, but rather yetodan ke'ena prat. When you have a klal prat klal, we say it includes anything, but it's going to be like the prat. Ma prat before is just like the prat is something that specifically says it clearly delineates balachayim. Shor chamor is balachayim. I've called balachayim the same thing. Anything which is a live animal. Okay, so anything which is alive. You're chayiv if it fell into your pit, except of course for Adam, because everybody agrees that shor excludes Adam. But animals, you're chayiv. We'll talk more about with this. Ima problem fourish. Wait a minute though. Shor or chamor are not just any animals. They're animals. If the carcass of a shor or chamor is matame you for one day, if you touch it or carry it, I've called up sometimes. There's only other animals like that. So what b'magamasa? Aval ofus lo, as Rashi points out, we're going to see it on the base also. Ofus ematam magamasa. If you have a dead bird, remember we said no live animals, no live beings at all in matami except for Jewish people. Jewish people are matami when they're alive. Goyim are not matami when they're alive. There's no such thing as a nida by a goy, and all animals are not matami when they're dead. Even the worst animal, a pig, is not matami when it's alive. It's only when it's dead. It's tamei. Technically, the word it's an animal tameya, a sus and a chamor. And a pig, all those things are behemot tameyot, but it's not metame you in the sense it doesn't defile you when it's dead, except for when it's dead. But birds, even when they're dead, are not metame above slow. So maybe if a bird flew into your pit by mistake or fell in there, maybe you're not chayav above slow. So how do we know to include even birds? If you want to include everything, just say one prop. Why say shor and chamor? Just say one prop. And then I'll know, okay, this is alive. Any animals that's alive, you want to include everything. In fact, you say two animals. You mentioned shor and chamor, and they're both animals that are matami when they're in avelis. So I think maybe only kind of like those kind of animals. So just say one. Yeah, but how could you say one? It's like, what are you going to write? Because it would only say shor b'mira, probably got mizbeach ein shor comes up low. Shor has a quality that most other animals don't have. Sure, se and keves also have that quality that you can bring it on mizbeach. There's only 3 animals that are bought as karbonos on mizbeach. Not talking about birds or flower offerings. We're talking about FLOUR. We're talking about animals. The only animals that are shor kasei. Okay, but maybe you're only chayiv if an animal that's fit to go on the mizbeach, like a shor or a seh or a keves, a shor or anything in the sheep family, anything in the goat family, anything in the cow or bull family. Only those things are chayiv on it because it says shor. If it would only say shor. Because of Shavi Mina, calling Masbeach Ein, Shagar Masbeach Lo. Kasar Rachmana, therefore, he puts in the Bachetz on. Kasar Rachmana short to Chamor also, because Chamor is not on the Masbeach. So just say Chamor. Because Rachmana Chamor, Avi Mina, Kash Bechor Ein, Shagar Bechor Lo. The only kind of animals that you're chayiv on if they fell into your pit is if it's holy when it's a Bechor. Even a Chamor is Pata, called Petach Chamor, Tifteh Beset. Even a Chamor, even though it's a non-kosher animal, but it has kedushas bechor, so maybe it would only say only those things, nothing else. Again, it would exclude birds and exclude all kinds of other animals, right? So therefore, you have to say shor. So how does shor teach me otherwise? The fact that you have to say 2 things. The fact that you say shor teaches me, that it includes all other kinds of animals, not just kiddush bechor, because it's extra. So include all other kinds of animals, horses, camels, all kinds of other things, which are like those shor and chamor in those things, that they're balechayim and they're nevasan tameya. But how would I know birds? How do I know if a bird, any kind of a bird, fell into my pit that I'm chai for that too. Elam Rakra, the pasuk is Vamesi Alo, right? It says Vamesi Alo. The mace will belong to him. I was getting ahead of myself and I said Kasi Yeshabal. Kasi Yeshabal was on today's stuff. I'm mixing up with yesterday's stuff. But in any case, Elam Rakra, the pasuk is Vamesi Alo. Call the Varmisa. Anything that could die, right? The pasuk says. Well, a mace, any animal, anything that can die. That includes birds. Birds can die too, as we know. All living beings can die. So he says, called the varmis, anything that's capable of. Okay. So now you know all kinds of animals that fall into your pit, any kind, birds, anything falls in there, you're chayav. But both according to the Rabbanan, who say what? Chamor excludes kalim. Right? Shor below Adam, Chamor below Kalim. Yehuda says the O includes Kalim. Kalim b'nei Misinu. What are you talking about? Mesi Alo. Can Kalim die? Right? Kalim, which are vessels or accessories or clothing, whatever, can they die? B'nei Misinu. Ami can. Shivasan huzui misas. Right. When they break, that's their death. In other words, means it's not usable anymore. Shivasan, when it breaks, that means it's death. So Mesi Alo can apply to an inanimate object as well. Bor said, remember Rav said before, when you're chayiv on a bor, it's only if it kills by asphyxiation, by strangling, by lack of good air, lack of oxygen, we would say. So Bein Rabbanan Ben Rav Yehuda, Kalim b'nei Havlin, what do you have to exclude them for? Kalim are not capable of dying by asphyxiation. You can break them, but how do you? If you have a new, let's say, earthenware vessel, a brand new one that's not been hardened, etc., can burst from bad air too, can burst that way too. So it is possible. Okay, says Gemara, we already used yesterday's stuff. Look at Rav. A shore psul mikdashin shenafal labor potter. A shore that's psul mikdashin. Again, a shore that was originally fit for the base of mikdash. Then it got a mum, and then you redeemed it for money. Now, what do you do with that animal? You can eat it, you can shecht it and eat it, but you can't sell it, you can't milk it, you can't do business with it. It's not like it's really yours, right? It belongs to God, but you can use it, but you can't really, you don't have ownership. So he says that, how do I know? It's only, it only applies if you get to keep it. If you don't get to keep it, the whole Pasha board doesn't apply to you. So we already used a Mesialo for that. Yes, that's She'ena Meshalo. Elam Makra, this is what I meant, yes, what I said at the beginning of the Daf. I thought it was yesterday, it was today's Daf. Elam Makra, Kesef Yoshev Lebalo. Again, the pasuk goes on by Bor. It says, Balabor Yishalim Kesef Yoshev Levalov to its owner. The Rabbos called this Leibalim. Anything that has an owner, even so you ask a question, how do you know that birds are included? Because we said Amesialo, anything that can die. Oh, well, can Kalim die? Yeah, they could die also. Right? Anything could die, and anything could be asphyxiated, right? Okay, anything could burst with the lack of oxygen, etc. But we use the Mesialo to teach me the drasha of that a shor psul mikdashin that fell into a bor. You don't have to pay for that. The balabor is not responsible. Ella merkra. So how do I know everything is included? Kesef shel Rav. The Rav is called this anything that has an owner. Anything that has an owner, like a bird, or etc. Now, obviously, birds that are mostly, I guess, 99% of the birds in the world are hefker, free, so there's nobody to pay. But if a bird had an owner, you had a parrot or something, it fell in there, you owned it, fell in there, you'd have to pay him, right? You have to pay because it says, about the owner, anything is an owner. It says, so if that's the case, Kalim and Adam could also have owners. Adam could be an Evet, it belongs to somebody, and Kalim certainly can have ownership. So you're right. Anything that has an owner, but we have an exclusion. Shore below Adam, but Rabbi Yehuda, the Kamar below Kalim. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says what? The Kalim are included because it says, oh, Subishlam shore. Okay, he agrees with the Chacham that shore excludes Ma'id Be'adam, excludes an Adam, right? That if a person fell in there, it's an Eved or any person, Eved Ivri, Kanani, a regular Jew, anybody, a guy fell in there, you're potter. Ela Chamor, what does Chamor exclude? Rabbanan say Chamor excludes Caleb, but the Rabbi Yehuda says, oh, includes Caleb. So what does Chamor exclude? Elam Marabba, we don't have a simple answer to that. Elam Marabba, Chamor Debor Rabbi Yehuda. Chamor, what is Chamor? What is says Shor Chamor? What does that exclude over here? This said Aveda, and it says by Aveda, if you lose an item, I'm talking about restoring an item to its owner. The pasuk says, if you find an item, it says the Then it says chamor, v'shor, v'seh, v'salma, l'chol v'asachir. It says l'chol v'asachir. What does it say seh for? The Gemara over there, LMC, says, brings a drasha why the other words are written. It says shor, chamor, seh, shor, chamor, seh, v'salma. It explains the other ones, what they're used for. But the seh, why does it say seh? What does that teach me? According to everybody, we don't know what this says for. That's a kasha. The Gemara here states the kasha is like a tifta. We need an answer for that. In other words, we don't know. The Gemara says, I don't know what Rabbi Yehuda will darshan from the word chamor. Why do you say chamor v'labor? So obviously, if it would have just said chamor, so you say, okay, anything about that has klushas b'chor. But once you have the pasuk of kesef yashiv labalav, anything that has ownership, so I don't really need shor and chamor for at all. So shor excludes Adam. Chamor excludes Kalim according to Rabbanim. But what does chamor exclude according to Bira? We don't know. And also that famous thing that by Seh, by Beta, these are things that we don't know. These are two issues that the Gemara mentions over there in Bamatzi also. We don't know what that drasha is for. Now, we said at the end of the Mishnah that if a shor chevishat falls into the pit, what's into your pit? What's the halacha? Your potter. No. Shor chevishat chayiv ben obasa. Any human being that falls in there, whether it's a child, whether it's an eved, whether it's a regular, any kind of a human being, you're potter because it's just shor below adam. But a shor chevishat chayiv. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean the shor that belongs to a chevishat cotton or a shor that is a chevishat cotton. My shor chevishat cotton, Elay, shor shell chevish, shor shell shota, shell cotton. So how shor shall be keach potter? It says over there, Yechayev, if a shor that belongs to a chevish, or belongs to a cotton, or belongs to a shota, falls in there, they're Yechayev. Right? That's what the Mishnah says. Yechayev if the shor belonged to one of them. What does that mean? That if a shor belonged to a smart person, your potter? What difference does that make? Right? Yeah. Hey, where did the pasuk say that a shor that belongs to an intelligent person or an adult intelligent person, you're potter to pay? Where does the pasuk say that? Rashi says, "Bitmiya hechi potter kwa." Amar Rabbi Yochanan shor shuchar. It doesn't mean that. It means a shor which is a cherish. You can determine that the shor is a cherish, is deaf and dumb. Shor shu shota doesn't have the normal faculties of a shota. Shor shal cotton shor that is a cotton. A young shor that's not too bright. So that's what it means. It means a shor that is a cherishat of a cotton, you're chayiv on. So what does that mean to say? Hashor shu pekech potter? Does that mean to say that if the shor is normal, you're potter? If a shor fell into your potter? We'll see. That is the case. But at this point, we're not saying that. Rav Yomi, lomi boy comer. So first the Gemara says, no, certainly that. Lomi boy shor shu pekech, the chayiv. Certainly a shor, which is a normal shor, it fell into your pit, you're chayiv to pay for that. I will short cherishat of a cotton. I might think if a shor is one of those stupid things. Ema charishusagam. I might think the animal's imbecility or the animal's deafness or dumbness or the animal's babiness, that it's a child. The animal is saying that's what caused it to fall in. A normal shor wouldn't have fallen in. If a shor which is a cherishat of a cotton, you might think you're potter, but lifter, because it's not the fault of the pit, it's the fault of the fact that the animal was let loose being a cherishat of a cotton. Kamashma, we don't say that. Mashma, not only is a regular shore potter, not only is a regular shore chayiv, if a shore fell into your pit, you have to pay for the shore, but any kind of a shore, even a shore which is a chevishat of cotton. Amalei Rachel Rabina, Iva Tani, we learn nafal atochol bardas potter. We learned that if a bardas fell in there, my love shore bardas. Aren't we speaking about a shore that has normal oxen intelligence that you potter? Amalei lo adam. When it says nafal atochol bardas, we don't mean a shore which is a bardas. We mean a person. Are you saying not only if a person is intelligent, you're potter there, but if a person is not a bendas, let's say the person was an imbecile or a child, then you are chayiv to pay. The pasuk says no adam. The pasuk excludes all. You're not responsible for any human being that fell into your pit. Elamai bendas, min bendas. This is what he means to say. It means a species which is intelligence. Human beings are the only species that have regular human intelligence. That's what we mean. A species that's bendas, if it fell in there, that means it's like Adam. Nafal tochel bardas. We mean a person who is of a species of a bardas, even though this particular person may be an imbecile or may be defective, but you're still potter. Amalei, I batanya nafal tochel shor bendas potter. Now here's a problem. Here we have a brisa. Until now we're assuming that you're chayiv on any shore. Even a shore which is a cherishot of a cotton, you might think you're potter there because it was the shore's own fault for falling in there. Kamashma not. But here we have a brisa which says clearly nafal tachos shore bendas potter. Elamarava, shor v'ucheres, shor v'shota, shor v'katan, dafka. Only those you're chayiv on. Aval shor v'ubikech, if a shore is a normal shore, and let's daytime, you're chayiv. There you're potter if he fell in there. My time, the boiler unit, you should look where he was going. We learned before, a shore which is a cheres shota v'katan, as we're going to say over here in a second. The tainam yachi nafel tocha shor cheres. We had this price before. A shore which is a cheresh, a shore which is a shot, a shore which is a cotton, or a shore which is blind, fell into your pit, or mahal b'layla, or he's going at night when there was we couldn't see. You're chayiv to pay for that. If somebody's shore, you dug a pit, you did a bad thing, you made an obstacle in the Rishus Harabim, and a regular shore, in the middle of the day, walked and fell in there. It's the shore's own fault. You can see where he's going. In that case, you're potter. So when we say you're chayiv on a shore, we mean when it wasn't the shore's fault. Either the shore didn't have its full faculties, or it was nighttime, or blind, or was something of that sort.
We throughout this tomorrow, we've had reasons why shore below adam, and we expand that to be a shore that is pikeah. That, in other words, we have a reason like Doresh. Right. But for Caleb, there's no reason.
No reason for it. No svar for it. Just simply.
But why do we have one?
Rav Yehuda argues. If that's you are chayiv on Caleb. Rav Yehuda says you're chayiv on Caleb.
I understand.
So the pasuk.
Rav Yehuda makes more sense.
Okay, but it's based on a pasuk. It's based on the drush.
It's not. That's what
not a svar.
Right. It's not based on a pasuk because we give reasons.
But without the pasuk, you wouldn't say that. They're saying
about pikeah.
Yeah. Okay. The shore that's a pikeah.
Or a person, because you should watch where he's going.
Right, sure.
So we have reasons for
but we said your potter, even the shore below Adam teaches you below Adam, any person, even a person who isn't a missile or a shore, a person who doesn't have his full faculties, you're still potter because the Xeris Akasif, shore below Adam, you're not chayiv on Adam at all.
Then why do we bother with the reasons?
We're not giving the reason, we're giving the reasons. He says in the case of the shore where you are chayiv, there's still responsibility. Like Rav Nassan's yesterday's Rosh Gemara was basically about Rav Nassan. It said, even though this is the guy who pushed him, but if it wouldn't be for the boar, he wouldn't have died. So therefore, the boar is also responsible. We use some svaras, and we use svaras, but we have svaras. Svaras also a dorais. Svaras also dorais. We have a Xeris Akasiv, and part of it's svara too. The Xeris Akasiv says you're chayiv on a shore, right? You're chayiv on a shore. But in a svara, we could say, you know what? Only if it makes sense. He fell in there. But if it wasn't his. Let's say over here where there was shared responsibility, the shore should have watched where he was going, then he's responsible. You're right. It's like everything else, you're chayiv and everything.
But the other side of it.
No
reasons for one side.
Yeah.
To make all kinds of.
Right. So you have both. You have both. Right. Not for Caleb. No. And for Caleb certainly are inanimate, so there's no svara why they're potter. Simply,
if there would be no Xeris Akasiv, wouldn't it make sense that
say you're right? That's Xeris Akasiv. Correct. That's Xeris Akasiv. Says the Mishnah. Echad shavar echad kol v'im. And now, when it comes to, this could have been written again at the beginning of the Masechta when he said that animals that fell into your pit, your chayiv on it, mean any kind of a pit, any kind of an animal. Echad shavar echad kol v'im. Any kind of an animal. But not only for falling into a boy that you're chayiv on, or froshes Har Sinai. At Har Sinai, historically, when Hashem said, for 3 days, stay away from Har Sinai, all animals, in Behemah and Mishiach, all kinds of animals. It says over there, if you steal somebody's animal, it says over there, shor, chamor, whatever, you know what? Everything. I'll call the pesha, I'll shor, I'll chamor, I'll sell samah, you pay kefil. Doesn't just mean on shor, chamor, or sell samah, pay kefil for all animals. I'll show us a Veda. Restoring somebody's lost item, the chiyuv is on any animal, even an inanimate object, as we'll see, right? Leprika, if you see an animal burdened under a big load, and you're supposed to help him unload, also doesn't, even though it says shor or chamor, it draws all the animals. Lachasima, lo sachrosh b'shor v'chamor yachdav, don't muzzle, lo sachsim shor b'disha rather, don't muzzle your animal when it's threshing. Does it only mean, it says lo sachsim shor, only shor? All animals. L'klayim. Don't mix breeds of animals, right? Again, all kinds of animals. Ula Shabbos, right? It says by Shabbos, it says, so it doesn't mean shor v'chamor, it means all animals. So we're going to say, so why does it say all? We'll see. Not only animals, but even not only what we call behemoth, but even chaya, wild animals and birds too. Why does it say shor chamor? Pasuk speaks about, like Rashi says, b'davar regalios. Usually it's a shor chamor. Usually what people steal is shor chamor. Usually what people muzzle or breed or whatever, or they use for their work, etc., is shor chamor. But all of them apply too. Now we're going to see why. The Gemara is going to go into great detail here to show, yes, it gave the things that are normal to be used, but still it could have said other animals too. There's a reason once it says, okay, shor v'chamor are your classic cases of animals. That's usually the case. It's usually those kind of animals, but we'll see why it says in each one how we darshan that all animals in each one. The Mishnah says all animals apply, whether you're talking about Machal Shabbos, whether you're talking about unloading, whether you're talking about muzzling, you're talking about Chayiv Kefil, restoring, anything, and all animals do. So now how do we know in each case? So the Gemara says like this. So in the field of Sabor, how do we know? Kesef Yashuv Balav. It says Libalav, called this Lebalam Kedamim. We just said it on Aleph. How do we know that you're Chayiv even on birds and everything else? Libalav, anything that has an owner. So anything has an owner. That's how you know that when it comes to Nefila Sabor, it's not just Shor and Chamor. It's anything that has an owner, like we just explained about. Lafrashas Asina, staying away from Arsina historically. In Beheme Mish Lo Yichya, Beheme Mish V'chaya B'chlal Behema Have. How do we know that Chai is included? Because the pasuk says Zosa Behema Asher Tochelu, and then it goes on to list even Chayos, right? In Chayos also, as it says, Rashi quotes the pasuk here. Zosa Behema Asher Tochelu Ksibasrei Ayol B'Tzvi V'Achmor, right? Tzvi is a chaya, not a behema. So we know that behemoths are included with chayas. So therefore, when you talk about animals staying away, we know that chayas are included. So all animals are included. And what it says, im behema imishlo yichya. If an animal or a man comes too close to our Sinai, they will not live. Im includes birds too. But tashlum kefil, how do we know? So we know so far that for nefila sabor, if a chaya for bor, and historically for staying away from our sin includes all kinds of animals. What about Tishum Kefil? Karamrino, he said this is called Var Pesha. On anything which is negligence, klal, called Var Pshia. So anything, I'll sell to much, right? Says if you pet by Kefil, I'll call the Var Pesha. Anything for which you were negligent and there we'll see we're talking about paying Kefil. If you, let's say, we're supposed to watch something and you stole it instead, whatever, anything where it's considered burgled that you have to pay kefil, called anything is bapshia, even inanimate objects. If you'll double shame Barachaim, says Rashi, we'll see them later on in the Gemara and Meruba. How do I know that I have to restore a lost item, even if it's not an animal? Right? It says Shor Chamor, it says L'chol Avedasachicha. It says anything that's lost, anything includes everything. Leprika. How do I know that I have to unload animals that are burdened? Even if he's my enemy and I see him as animals falling under the load, I have to Sar Balachim, I have to help unload it. Yolav Chamor Mishabes. Okay, now here it says Chamor there. It says Teres Chamor Sonacha Nota Baderach, right? The Lashon where it says Chamor. How do I know it includes all animals? You learn off from Shabbos. Now, how do I know by Shabbos? We didn't get to that yet. Shabbos includes all animals, so all your animals have to rest on Shabbos. You shouldn't have any of them working for you on Shabbos. So how do I know the Prika? Because that's learned out from Shabbos. It says Chamor here, it says Chamor on Shabbos. Lachasima, you shouldn't muzzle your animals. Also, you'll have Shor mi Shabbos. There it says Lo Sachsam Shor B'Disho. And L'Ashor also from Shabbos. Again, we didn't learn yet. How do I know by Shabbos it includes all animals? But we'll get to that. L'Klayim, how do I know you can't mix breeds of animals or of grains? How do I know? He says, if we're talking about plowing with different animals together. We're not talking about climb of seeds here. We're talking about how do we know that climb of plowing, you can't plow together. That one. How do I know it's not, maybe it's only shore and chamor? How do I know if I'm plowing with a sheep or something else? I know there. L'klayim, iklayim, the charish, if we're talking about chayim, the climb of plowing together, yolav, again, says shor mishabes, and that includes all animals. Climb the harba, how do I know that I shouldn't mix breeds in terms of breeding them? How do I know? Yolav behemtecha mishabes. There also says, what's the lashon, Michael? What does it say? Behemtecha lo sarbiya climb, something like that, right?
Yeah.
It says behemtecha mishabbos. Again, Shabbos teaches us, as we'll see in a few minutes, Shabbos teaches us that all animals, and we have Xavier Shava for a climb of Harva, Xavier Shava for a climb of Charisha, we have Xavier Shava for Chasima, and we have and for Frika, we have Xavier Shava teaching us. But Gabi Shabbos Mano, how do I know by Shabbos it includes all animals? The Tanya Rabbi Yossi Omer Mishmar Bishmuel. Listen carefully, because in tomorrow's daf we're also going to talk about differences between the first Seres Adibros in Yisro and the ones in Baschana. It says Abducha B'Mascha, right? It says Abducha B'Mascha V'Mtecha, right? By Shabbos, it says Abducha. You should rest on Shabbos. It says Abducha B'Mascha V'Mtecha. U'B'Dibros Achronos Nemar Shor B'Chamor B'Chol V'Mtecha. In the later Debros that we mentioned in Baschana, we have it says Shor B'Chamor B'Chamtecha. Now, why did it have to say Shor B'Chamor? But Shor B'Chamor B'Chlal Kol Behema. It already says it says Kol Behemtecha. Shor B'Chamor already include all behemoths. Shor B'Chamor B'Chol Behemtecha. So say Kol Behemtecha. Lama Yatsu. Why did it have to specify Shor B'Chamor? Lama Lecha. Ma Shor B'Chamor Ha'omer Khan. Just like it says over here, Shor B'Chamor includes also Chayav Ba'of. How do I know it includes Chayav Ba'of? As we'll see in a few minutes, because it says V'Chol. V'Chol teaches me all everything. So just like over here, Shor B'Chamor includes Chayav Ba'of. And as again, it says Shor B'Chamor B'Chol Behemtecha. So B'Chol Behemtecha includes Chayav Ba'of. And it says Shor B'Chamor. Why does it say Shor B'Chamor? To teach me just like over here, Shor B'Chamor includes also all animals Chayav Ba'of. Kiyotzman the same way. Af Kol Chayav Ba'of. Every Kiyotzman. Wherever else it says Shor B'Chamor, it also means all kinds of animals. Okay, all kinds of animals. All right. So let's talk about animals. Chayav Ba'of. Kiyotzman. Ema. Behema, wait a minute. Maybe Behema, the Dibros Rishonis is a klal. Shor B'Chamacha, the Dibros Rishonis is a prat. Klal prat and Mchal Mashav prat. So maybe it's only what? Ein B'Chal and Mashav prat. So why don't you say, even though it's a klal prat that are far away from one another in the Sukkim, but some darshan that way. So why don't you say a klal and a prat? Ein B'Chal and Mashav prat. Shor B'Chamor Ein Midech and Lo. Amrit says B'Chol Behemtecha. The Dibros Achros Chaz B'Chol. Right after it says Shor B'Chamor by the Dibros Shnios, it says Kol Behemtecha, include every Chal B'Klal, Klal Prat of Klal, Yet Adon Gel and a Prat. Ma Prat Mefurish Balachayim, just like what is the Prat? Shor B'Chol Balachayim, Av Kol Balachayim. So now we're going to say the same kashas we had on Amid Aleph. On Amid Aleph, when we were talking about the case of Bor, right? When we talking about the case of Bor, we said, wait a minute. So maybe it's a Klal or Prat or Klal, and you darshan Ain't a Prat. Maybe Ma Prat Mefurish Davashin Vasatame. Wait a minute, the Shor B'Chamor is only something whose carcass is Matam Bagamasa. I've called over Matam Bagamasa. Aval Ofos Lo. Maybe not birds. Maybe not birds. Again, we said before, B'chol Behemtecha, it includes everything, birds, everything, right? But maybe we don't dash that way. How do you know that B'chol includes everything? Maybe it's a klal of proud klal. And the only things like the Shor B'Chamor, which means only carcasses which are Matame. Oval Ofos, no, dead birds are not Matame. B'magamasa. Again, the same brush of Ger Amalaf. So if that would be the case, just say one, just say Shor or Chamor. So which one would you say? Hey, Nechtav Rachmani, because Rachman Hashem, if you don't say Shor, have me in a Kroman's Bech. It's got to be an animal which could be brought in his Bech, which is a Shor Seh Bekeves. Ain't Shen Kroman's Bech low. Maybe you're not high on things that are not. And don't forget, from Shabbos, we're talking about Shabbos right now. And by Shabbos, if we only have this included here, we wouldn't know to include by Charisha and by Prika and by Kleim, etc. The other ones too. Maybe it only includes animals that are four-legged animals that are mitame when they die, and not others. So he says, well, if that would be the case, only say one. Which one would you say? If you say Shor, you'd say maybe only things that are on Mizbeach, Ain't Mizbeach and Mizlo. Kasser Chamor Chamor to teach me Chor. If Chamor teach me even things that are not on Mizbeach, like an animal's stomach. If we only say Chamor, have me in a Kadosh B'chora, I would say it's got to be an animal which is Kadosh B'chora, like a Chamor. Or like a Shor too, to tell me why did you say Shor to include everything, even though Shor and Chamor are both Kiddush B'chora, but the idea is that it would only be Kiddush B'chora to teach me Chamor. Why did I say Shor to include everything? Okay, so include everything, but I still don't know birds. Means all animals. Maybe Shor Chamor teach me only animals which are matame when they are dead and not birds. Ela B'chol Behemtecha Ribuya says B'chol Behemtecha, that includes everything, and that's why by Shabbos we say all animals are included. And from Shabbos, we learned to Prika and to Charisha and to Chasima, etc. What do you mean? Just because it says it includes everything? What about by Meiser Sheni? Meiser Sheni, what do? You bring it to Yerushalayim and you eat it. If you're podit because you have too heavy, you got truckloads of Meiser Sheni in Tel Aviv and Haifa, you want to bring it to Yerushalayim, you put it for money, and with the money you bring it to Yerushalayim, you buy food there. What food can you buy? It says kol. There it says kol because we don't learn it with a general inclusion. Ubachol includes everything. We learn with the kol prat. The Tanya. This gets into a complicated area. Some Amoram and Tanoam learn more darshan for kol prat. Some learn ribu yimiyad. But even the ones who darshan kol prat also sometimes darshan with kol, like over here. So how do you know the darshan with the chol? Maybe you should darshan kol prat. The Tanya, but asata kesef. What do you do with the kesef Meiser Sheni money that the Meiser Sheni money you bring to Yerushalayim? You buy food with it. It says when asata kesef b'chol shetanavshecha. Take this money and use it for anything that you desire. That's a general category. Klal, anything I desire. Then it says babakur betzon v'yayin v'shecher. Wait, only certain kinds of foods: bakar and son, cattle and flocks and of sheep. Ubeyayin v'shecher, wine and shecher. That's a prat. And anything that you desire, chazer klal. So we have a klal, paro klal. Yet a generalization, then a specification, then a generalization. Yet like a prat. Ma prat before. Listen carefully. Bakar tzon yayin shecher. What is their common denominator? That they are before. What does it explain for us? Pre. They grow from something else. In other words, they have children. Now that's the truth for grapes, which produce wine and tomorrow produce shefer, beer, whatever, and animals produce offspring, and grow out of the ground. Now we understand that right away. You talk about yain and shecher; they come from things that grow on the ground. What about bakar and son? Bakar and son also get their nourishment from the ground. Tosfos makes a point of saying there are cases where we don't include animals as growing out of the ground. When you talk about specifically, do they grow from the ground? The animals don't grow from the ground. If you're talking about something that literally comes out of the ground, then obviously animals are excluded. They don't come out of the ground. But if you're talking about animals that get their nourishment from the ground, these do, as opposed to Rashi brings down mushrooms and truffles are considered to grow out of the ground. They don't grow in the ground. Water, salt, these are things which don't have a parent. They don't come from something else. Fish have parents, but they don't grow out of the ground. They're not considered to get their nourishment out of the ground. So those, in other words, with the kesef Meiser Sheni, you cannot use it to buy mushrooms, water, salt, or fish. It's got to be something like that. But the point of it all is that you see, even though it says kol asher nafshecha, kol asher teshocha nafshecha, v'chol asher tenafshecha, v'chol asher tenafshecha, even though it says b'kol, you still darshan with the kol protocol to exclude, let's say, fish. You can't use kesef Meiser Sheni for fish. Amri, so how do you know when to include it? When do you darshan kol and when not? Amri, bakol is a klolo. Kol ribui. If it says bakol, that's learned as a klal baro klal. If it says kol, like over here it says the kol b'emtecha, kol is it more of a ribui? Is a more general inclusion? It's a general inclusion, includes everything. Or you can tell kol nami klala. You can't be that. Can be that specific. Kol could also be a klal. Kol could be a klal, and uvachol can be a klal. Miu high kol the hacharibuyu. But over here, this kol by Shabbos is definitely ribu. Why? Midav lemechtav uvem techa. Could have just said shor b'chamor uvem techa. It says you have to let your animals rest on Shabbos in the second in Vaschanan's Seres Dibros. It says shor b'chamor uvem techa. Like Dibros Rishonos, what did it say B'Dibros Rishonos? We said it says Uvem Techa. Here could also say Shorcha B'Chamorcha Uvem Techa. Why does it say because of the Kol B'Em Techa? The extra word B'Chol Shema Minor is come to include everything. Okay, so that's how we know by Shabbos, and the other ones will learn out from Shabbos. Hashadam Kol Ribuya. So B'Em Techa Dibros Rishonos B'Shor B'Chamor Dibros Rishonos Lamli. So what do I have to have B'Em Techa in the first Seres Dibros? And what do I have to have Shor B'Chamor in the second ones? Right, Lamali. You're right. For Shabbos, you don't need it. For the Isser of Shabbos, I have B'chol. Everything is included. But what do I need it for? For the drushes we said before. Shor, like Morei Shor L'Chasima. The reason it says Shor by Shabbos is to teach me that by Sachsim Shor B'Disho also includes, just like by Shabbos, includes everything because it says B'Kol B'Em Techa. So by Chasima also. Chamor, why did it say Shor? Why did it say Chamor by Shabbos? Like Morei Chamor Laprika. Again, By Shabbos could have just said kol be'emtecha, or kol, right? We're kol be'emtecha. We already know by the Davis Rishonos be'emtecha. Why does it say shor b'chamor? Right. So here are the questions. Why did it say be'emtecha dibros Rishonos? Be'emtecha by b'chol be'emtecha by the luchas achronos is okay. Be'emtechas we're going to see is a drasha, but what does it have to say be'emtecha of the first dibros? And why does it say shor b'chamor the second ones? So shor, that the second of dibros is to teach me that shor lechasima, the bechasima also includes all animals. Chamor, like murei chamor leprika, to teach me that what? That lo siras as chamor sanacha, is falling off under his burden in the road, and you have to help him. Okay, not only a chamor by Shabbos, since it says here chamor and it says chamor by Shabbos, teach me all animals. The hemtecha, why does it behemtel in the first luchas rishon? The first the luchas rishon is like murei behemtecha memcha leklayim. Teach me that klayim applies to all animals as well. Yachi afilu adam litzer. It means everything. A person should also be forbidden to plow with an animal, right? Everything should be included. Yachi afilu adam litzer. A person could plow and to pull things together with another with an animal of any sort. Amar Papa, so Papa says papunoi. It's a relationship between a Papa and papunoi. He says the papunoi, maybe he came from there too. Yari Tama Adama, so they know the reason. Who is the famous papunoi? The person from Papunoi, Rav Bar Yaakov. Omar, he says Umana Rav Bar Yaakov. He says like this. Pasuk says Lamanya Nuach Abducha B'Masvei Kamacha. When it la'anacha for resting on Shabbos, he kashtiv. I've compared, juxtaposed animals and people. Abducha v'mascha kamocha, right? That they should. I've only for that for lolo davar acher. I've only related the idea of resting on Shabbos, right? On Shabbos, I've related animals and people together for that, but not for anything else. Anochav says Rashi, Eved v'amal behema, avaloli yisracha, but not for any other ism. Therefore, you can use a eved to plow together with an animal. He's not included in climate, not included, say, everything of everything. Now we come out that we understand why it says shor chamor in all these places. So what's the shot in the Mishnah? And the Mishnah said, if everything is included, why did it say shor chamor? El shiva kasabhova. So I think it's saying is like this. Yes, the Gemara is now given reasons for all these Shabbos to teach me that what applies by Shabbos applies here, or you don't even need Shabbos when it comes to, let's say, in Behemim Mishlo Yichya by Hafrashas Sinai, or by Bor, where it says anything that is an owner, right? Or Kefil, which says Al Kol Dvar Pesha, or La Shabbos Avedu says the Chol of Eres Achicha. But for the other ones, Chasima and Prika and Klayim, we need the Gzeir Shabbos from Shabbos. But why did it choose? Why did the pasuk choose Shor and Chamor? Why did it choose Kelev and Seh or something else? You could have the Torah could have used different animals for the Gzeir Shabbos. Yes, we need Shor v'Chamor not for the Gzeir Shabbos, but why did he pick those animals? That's what the Mishnah is saying. Why pick those animals? Because those are the animals that are usually involved in all these actions that involve usual farming and stealing and etc. Those are usually the animals that are used. All right, we'll pick it up from here tomorrow, Mitzvah from the bottom of the page. We're going to talk about Aseres Dibros in a little more detail, a little bit of a Gavatil here. Have a good day, everybody. Surot Tavot.